this one here. If a vector b is added to a vector a, the resultant vector has x component equal to 6 and y component equal to 1. When vector a is subtracted from vector b, the resultant vector has x component equal to -4 and the y component equal to 7. Find the magnitude of a. That's 11 marks. So we'll start with vector here, and then we're going to put x component, then we'll put y component. Okay, so we know that we've got vector a, so I'm going to put vector a here, and we know that we've got vector b. But what we've been told is if vector b is added to vector a, what does that mean? We have got a plus b. Okay, if vector a is added to vector b, the resultant, the answer that we are going to get is going to have x component equal to 6. The x component is going to be 6 when we add them, and the y component is going to be equal to 1 when we add those two vectors. And then when vector a is subtracted from vector b, if we say vector a is subtracted from vector b, is it b minus a or a minus b? Let me hear. Vector b is subtracted, vector a is subtracted from vector b. Which one of these two conditions? Is it a or b? Okay, good. It is from vector b. So what we have is b minus a. So when we have got that, they've told us that the resultant is going to have x component, which is -4, and then y component, which is equal to 6. Oh, I wrote 7, I'm saying 6. Okay. Now, the question is find the magnitude of vector A. We don't know the magnitude of vector A. What is it? So what we want to find is the magnitude of vector A. Now, this vector A, we can break it into components. What will be the components? We are going to have AX and AY. Even B, we can break it into components. What are we going to have? We are going to have BX and BY. So from here, we've seen that when you add a and b, you are going to get those vectors. Now, when you are adding, please, you add components. You don't add vectors, you add components. So this a plus b we're talking about is when you add ax plus bx, you are supposed to get the resultant. So that is a plus b, but you add first the components. So the x component of a plus x component of b, that is going to give us a 6. That is what you can see there. And then again, this same a plus b, we're also going to add the y components since we've added the x components. So on the y components, that is going to be ay plus by. That is going to give us, when we add them, it's going to give us a 1. Apart from this, we also have b minus a. So b minus a also are going to say bx minus ax. That is giving us -4. And then you also have b minus a in the y, so that will be bx minus sorry, not x again, it's y now, by minus ay. What is the y component we are getting? It is 7. Is anyone left behind on interpreting this data like this? Anyone who is left behind? No one? Okay, so is it now caught up? Are you able to see what is happening? Okay, so when this happens, I'm now going to get those terms that you've got like terms together. I'm just going to rearrange the equation, in other words. How am I going to do that? Here I've got ay and by. So I'm going to get those with this one where they are ay and by. So I'm going to say ay plus by is equal to 1. And then I'm going to get this. Going to start with the ay. In this case, the ay is negative. and then plus by. I've just rearranged it, and that is giving us 7. And then I'm also going to write these two, that is ax plus bx, that is a 6. And then I also write this, but I'll start with the negative ax plus bx, that is a negative 4. Now we are going to add this. If we add ay plus negative ay, those are going to cancel out. And then by plus by, that will give us 2by. And that will be equal to 1 plus 7, that will be 8. Meaning that by is equal to 4. And then also this side, ax plus negative ax, that will give us 0. Bx plus bx, that will give us 2bx. And that will be equal to 6 plus negative 4, which will be just a positive 2. And then to remain with bx, divide both sides by 2. Bx is going to be a 1. So we found by and bx. Now what will be ax and ay? So to find ay, we can just come on this one now. Say ay is equal to 1 minus, I'm taking the by this side, so it will be 1 minus by. That is going to give us what? By is what? 4. So therefore ay is going to be negative 3. And then we'll come also on this one to find ax. That will be 6 minus, I'll take the bx this side, and bx is 1, so it will be 6 minus 1. That is going to give us a 5. So we have found the x component and then the y component for y, and the question is saying find the magnitude of vector a. We are just interested in the magnitude. If they said find the vector a, would have also found the direction. So therefore the magnitude of a is given by ax squared plus ay squared and then square root. So that is going to be ax, we found negative 3 squared, ay we found 5 squared, and then square root. We know negative 3 squared, that is a 9, 5 squared is a 25. 9 plus 25, is it a 34? So just find the magnitude of this. That will be the answer. Just find the square root of 34. So that is it for this question. Do you have questions somewhere, anywhere? Any question anywhere? So if they asked you to find also the direction for a, so if they asked for the direction, you would have said tan theta is equal to y over x, and that would have been tan theta, okay, y, in this case the y component for a is 5, the x component for a is negative 3. So to find theta, would have said theta is equal to, we take tan, the other side becomes tan inverse of 5 over negative 3. So let's see what it will give us. Yes. For the direction. So that has given me negative 59 degrees. Now this will not be the answer. Why? You look at the components. I've told you, make sure you get to show a diagram. Look at just the signs. Y is negative, x is positive. So you go in which quadrant is y positive, y negative, x positive. So y is negative here and here, but where is x positive? Pardon? Yes. Oh wow, you are the one who has seen. I didn't even see that. That's correct. So this is a negative 3 over 5. Thank you so much for that. So that was supposed to be negative 3 over 5. So the answer I was supposed to find for theta is negative 30.96, which is basically negative 31. Now again, this is what I'm saying. You go on the quadrants. The y component was negative, the x component was positive. It is in this quadrant. This is where x is positive but y is negative. So the angle that we found is this one. This is the negative 30.96. The negative is just saying the direction because we're going in this way. So the angle we're interested in is this one. So all you do is say 360 minus the angle that you have found, which is the 30.96. So that is 360 minus 30.96. So the negative is just telling you the direction. Just forget about the negative. You just get the answer positive the way it is. If you want to say negative 30, just say plus 360, negative 30 plus 360. Otherwise, the negative is just telling you of your direction. Remember, these are vectors. They're supposed to have direction. So this is the angle that you're supposed to. I'm putting degrees Celsius. So it's just degrees. So this is the answer that you're supposed to give you. That's also for the direction. So I take that is okay. And then we have this. Two displacements A and B lie on the xy plane. Vector A is 49 centimeters in magnitude at theta, which is equal to 42 degrees with the x-axis, and vector B is 32 centimeters in magnitude at theta, which is 115 with the y-axis. What is the difference B minus A? So the first thing is we need just to see what the information is talking about. We've been told that vector A, what is the angle? It is 42. We know 42 is in the first quadrant, so this is where it is. 42 is here. This is vector A, and vector A has a magnitude of 49 centimeters. Then vector B has got an angle of 115. 115 is in the second quadrant. So 115 is up to here. And then the magnitude for B, they've told us is what? 32 centimeters. Now what we want to find is B minus A. So before we find B minus A, let's write vector here, the x component, and then the y component. So first we have got a vector A. How do you find the x component of A? That is AX. AX is going to be A cos theta. And then AY is going to be A sin theta. So for A, we're going to get A, which is 49, and then cos the angle is 42, and then 49 sin 42. Let's find those. 49 cos 42, that is giving me 36.4. Then 49 sin 42, that is giving me 32.9. And this makes sense. Both are positive because this vector is in the first quadrant where both x and y are positive. And then we'll look at B. So for B, Bx, I'm not even write a formula because we know it's x component. I mean the magnitude of B, which is 32, and then cos the angle. The angle is 115. And then By is going to be 32 sin 115. And let's punch that. 32 sin, first starting with cos 115, that has given me a negative 13.5, and then 32 sin 115, that has given me 29. So we can see that x is negative while y is positive, and this is true in this quadrant because x is positive, x is negative, y is positive. But what we want to find is what? find what is the difference b minus a. When you're talking about b minus a, we're going to come to the x components. I'll get the x component for b, which is negative 13.5, and then minus the x component for a, which is 36.4. I'll go also to the y components. Y component for b, that is 29, minus y component for a, which is 32.9. Let's get that. And don't swap them, same way they've been given. So if you found the answer, you can tell me. What is negative 13.5 minus 36.4? No one has found the answer. People, let's punch on the calculator if you have. -49.9, okay. And then the other one, 29 minus the 2.9. Negative 3.9. Alright, so we have found b minus a, the x component and the y component. So what remains is to find the magnitude of b minus a. We get the x component, negative 49.9. You square it, plus you get the y component, which is negative 3.9. You square it, and then you square root. So I can be doing that. 49.9 squared plus 3.9 squared. What does that give you? Yes. And then square root it. Square root the answer you have. So you just say square root, and then you press where there is answer there, and then equal to. Okay, so that is going to give 50.1. So this is the magnitude. Now remember, they just said find the difference b minus a. Whenever they say that, also find the direction. So tan theta is going to be y component has been given as negative 3.9, x component negative 49.9. So also need to find those, and let's get to punch. Tan inverse of, so that would basically 3.9 divided by 49.9. So the angle that I'm finding here, theta, if you get tan inverse of this 3.9 over 49.9, it will give us 4.47. Now this is not the angle. Look, these both of these are what? Are negatives. So we're going to go in which quadrant is both x and y negative? It is in this quadrant. Meaning the angle that you found is this one. This is the negative 4. This is the 4.47. So for me to be able to find the right angle I want, I need the angle from this point up to this point. So the angle that I've found, I'm going to add 180 because both of them were negatives. So that answer we have, we are going to add 108. So that is going to give us 184.5. So this is the direction and this is the magnitude. That is b minus a for this question. That is how you give it. If you just give the magnitude without the direction, from the 9 marks you can see they are going to lose some marks. Let's look at this one. Find the resultant, that is direction and magnitude of the following three forces. So the forces we have, the forces of the vectors, F1 is 2 newtons. This is F1 here, and they've told us it's 2 newtons. And then F2, this is F2, you can see here, and it is 8 newtons. And then this is F3, which is 6 newtons. The angles which are given, this angle here is 40 degrees. This angle here is 20 degrees. This angle here is 50 degrees. So let's go on and find. So the first thing we'll write vector, and then x component, y component. Starting with the first vector, which is f1, how do you find its x component? So f1x is going to be the magnitude. Remember, f1x is going to be f1 cos theta. So f1 itself is 2, that's the magnitude, and then cos. Now the angle should be the angle from the positive x-axis. So the angle we're interested in is from here up to here. We've been given the other one. So how do you find that angle that I've labeled since we've been given 40? How do you find that one? Yes, that would be 90 minus 40, which is a 50. And then f1y is going to be 2 sin 50. So you can be punching if you have, and then we are going to go to f2. So we're going to have f2x. f2, the magnitude is 8, and then cos. Now the angle we are interested in for f2, we're going to get from here up to this point. Now look, the angle we've been given 50 here. So if we remove 9, we say 90 minus 50, we are going to get 40. So this is going to be 40. So to find the angle of interest, it will be 180 plus 40. So you need to know these simple mathematics operations. So that's the angle we'll be using. And that is it 120? That's the angle we'll be using. And so when we go to f2x, I mean f2y, that will be 8 sin 120. And then we can go now to f3. So we're going to have f3x. Now f3 again, look at the angle we've been given. It is also 20 degrees, just another one. Yes, 80. Oh, I see. I see. That is correct. So we have got 40 here. We are adding 180. Yeah, I mean 40 plus 180. That is 220. Thank you very much. So you are able to see the possible mistakes I'm making. These are the possible mistakes of the exam. You know what you are doing, but you are writing something else. So pay attention to them. So this one, the angle that we are interested in is up to this point. So how do we find that angle if we know that this is 20? How do we find it? Anyone? Yes, good. So it will be 360 minus 20. The magnitude is 6. That will be 6 cos. If we say 360 minus 20, that will be 340. And then f3y is going to be 6 sin 340. Now we can punch 2 cos 50. You can be giving me values if you've punched. That will be 1.286. Then 2 sin 50, that is 0.174. 8 cos 220, 7.417. Then 8 sin 220. I've not even finished. Is this 220? So this one has given me 2.997. Okay, this other one is not supposed to be the way I've written it. It's another value. This one here is supposed to be negative 6.12. If we say 8 cos 220. On what? Okay, 2 sin 50. That's correct also. 1.532. And then we've got 6 cos 340, which is 5.6638. And then 6 sin 340, which is a negative 2.052. Now that you found all the components, what is the question saying? Find the resultant. So the resultant is simply f1x plus f2x plus f3x. This is the resultant in the x, and we also have the resultant in the y, which is f1y plus f2y plus f3y. So that will be 1.2. So just add these. I'm not even going to write that. This plus this plus this. See what we're going to get. 1.286 plus negative 6.12 and then plus 5.638. 0.804. And then also on the y components, we are going to add 1.53. So you can be confirming as I'm punching also. And then the y component, I have found 2.477. So I've found the components. I can now find the magnitude. Therefore, the resultant is going to be 0.804 squared plus 2.477 also squared, and then square root. So if we punch on the calculator, what you can see here, the resultant is going to give us 2.60. This one is given in Newton, so we're going to put the unit there. I've just found the magnitude, but remaining the direction. Yes, yes, please. Okay, so when you have the components, these small like this, you've got, this is a triangle, you've got the x, the y component and the x component. If you want to find this one, which is the resultant, you use the Pythagoras theorem. This is where it comes from. When you find the resultant, when you've been given components, just square them and square root to find the resultant. That's the hypotenuse. Okay, so say the x component, I mean the angle tan theta is going to be y over x. So theta is going to be tan inverse. Now we get the y component. The y component we found 2.477 over the x component, which is 0.804. Whatever it gives you, that's the direction. For this one, you don't even need to show on your Cartesian plane. Why? Because both x and y are positive. But if they are negative or one of them is negative, then you have to find in which quadrant they lie for you to determine the exact angle. So the angle here is giving 80.0 degrees. So this is the magnitude, this is the direction. You've gotten the all 10 marks. I'm showing you all these practice questions. I don't want to hear complaints. I think we are remaining with some of, for the last one, I think you are able even to find it. Okay, let's just do this last one, then we are done. You can sleep with vectors cleared. The figure below shows the three displacement vectors A, B, and C. These vectors are arranged in tail to head fashion. When added together, they give the resultant vector R. So where is the resultant? The resultant has been given here, which lies along the x-axis. What is the magnitude of vector C? So when you add this vector A, this vector B, and then this vector C, you're supposed to find the resultant, which is R, you can see here. Now we don't know the vector C, that's what we want to find. Vectors are very simple when you work with them in the same fashion we've been working. Vector, x component, y component. You start with the vector A. The vector A, let's find its x component, ax. So ax will be, we get first the vector A itself, it has got a magnitude of 20. And then cos, what is the angle? The angle is here, that is 60. And then ay is going to be 20 sin 60 also. And then we're going to go to the vector B. Now bx, the x component of B. Look, this angle just lies straight, like it goes like this. When you have got a vector which is parallel to the x-axis, what angle does it make with the x-axis? So the x-axis is like this. And then the vector B also goes in that direction. So the angle between them, when you've got two parallel lines, the angle between them is 0. If you have got two lines which are going in the opposite directions, the angle between them is 180. That you need to know. So the angle between these two vectors is 0. Between the x-axis and the vector B is 0. So therefore it is going to be 10 cos 0, and then by is going to be 10 sin 0. In other words, it doesn't have the x component because cos 0. Let me just punch that. Cos 0, that is a 1, and then sin 0. So this is telling us that it doesn't have the y component. It only has the x component. Okay. I'll show that again. And then we've got vector C, which we can see. We don't know it. So just say cx and cy. And then now we've got the resultant. The resultant just lies along the x-axis. And when a vector lies along the x-axis, that means it doesn't have any y component. Doesn't have any y component. Okay. The very same x value, that's the value that it is there. For example, when a vector is here, the same value which is here, that is its x component. The y component is 0 because it is what? On the y-axis. Therefore, for this vector, which is the resultant, the x component is the very same one which has been given, which is what, 35. And then the y component is 0 because it is lying on the x axis. Does that make sense? Okay, when a vector lies on the x-axis, it doesn't have any y component. Just like when a vector lies on the y-axis, it doesn't have any x component. That's the meaning. So whenever you see a vector on the y-axis, it doesn't have any x component. Whenever you see a vector on the x-axis, it doesn't have any y component. Just like that. So this vector has got a y component, but the x component is 0. And then same with the other one there. Okay, so hope that makes sense. So let's get to punch 20 cos 60 on our calculators. 20 cos 60. That will give us 11.76. Then we've got 20 sin 60, which is going to give us 16.18. Okay, like that. I just want to analyze this vector again so that it won't confuse us. This vector is going also parallel to the x-axis. Think of it in this way. You have a vector that goes first north and then it goes east. So whenever something points in this direction, you are going to take the y component is 0. When something goes up, the x component is 0. Same with this vector here, it is also parallel to the x-axis. Instead of this being the opposite, the way I've put them, it's supposed to be, this is supposed to give us a 0, this is supposed to give us, not this one, 0. The y component is supposed to give us 0. And then the same vector which we have here, that will be the y component. That will be the x component 108, and it will not be even necessary to put these angles we've put here. They'll confuse us. They'll give wrong values. So when a vector goes in this direction, it only has the x component. It doesn't have y. Like, look at where it's going. It's going along the x. Is it going up? When we're talking about y, it is just going up. So bx is just going to be the same 10 given, but by is going to be 0. Please, this one, get it well. Otherwise, it is a bit trick. Because if we take it just like this and we say the angle between them is 0, cos 0 is 1, and if we put cos 0 here, actually it even makes sense. My punching was just wrong because I tried to use cos. So we are saying the angle between these two vectors is 0, and we are going to say 10 cos 0. Cos 0 is a 1, and if you get 1 you multiply by 10, that will give you 10, and then here it will be 10 sin 0. Sin 0 is 0, and 0 times 10 is 0. So it makes sense because I just did the wrong punching. But otherwise, whenever you just see something going like that, it just has the x component, it doesn't have y. Now that you found all of these, our question is now to find vector c. Same just like we did on the previous question. When we add the x component of a, the x component of b, x component of c, we should be able to get the resultant for x. So we are saying if we add 11.76 plus 10 plus c, cx, we are supposed to get 35. Now we can find cx. So cx is going to be 35 minus 11.76 minus 10. If you have a calculator, you can be sure to punch that. So 35 minus 11.76 minus 10. What do you get? All right, so that has given me 13.24, and then we can now go to the x component, the y components also. If we add 16.18 plus 0 plus cy, we should be able to get 0. That's the resultant. So meaning that cy, we just take this term the other side because the rest zeros, that will be negative 16.18. So that is the y component. Now that we know the y component and the x component, let's find the vector c itself. So c is simply cx squared plus cy squared and then square root. So cx is 13.24 squared, and then cy is negative 16.18, then squared, square root that. 16.18 squared. The answer we get, we are going to square root it, and that will give us 4.57 as the unit being given. So we are working in meters, so that will be in meters. And for this question, since they've just asked to find vector c, we found this magnitude, and the vector doesn't just have a magnitude, it also has a direction, so we also need to find the direction, and that will be tan theta is equal to y component. What is the y component? That is negative 16.18 over the x component, which is 13.24. So theta tan inverse of negative 16.18 divided by 13.24. So that is going to give us negative 56. Negative 56.4 degrees. But will not give that as the answer. Why? Because we can see that y is negative, x is positive. So let's see. Where is y? So can someone tell me the quadrant in which y is negative and x is positive? In which quadrant is y negative and x positive? This is the first quadrant, this is second quadrant, this is the third, fourth. Which one? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Y should be negative, and then x should be positive. Quadrant 3. Okay, what of others? All right, so good, very good. It's the fourth quadrant. This is the positive x, this is the negative y, so it's in this quadrant. So the angle that we found is here. So when we want to find the angle that we want, which is in this direction, then we are going to add 3 sixty to this angle we have found, or we just say 3 sixty minus 56.4. And what have you found if you've punched? If there's anyone who has punched, they can tell us what they've found. Okay, so that will give us 303.6. That's the angle theta. 303.6 degrees. So this is the magnitude and this is the direction for C. So this 303 we can see is the angle that you have found is actually starting from is starting from here going in this direction. So if you wanted to make much sense, we can just give the angle 53, which is, 56.4, which is this angle. Since we found that 56 was this one, which is here, we can also give this one. This last question you can try it out. I will just describe what you should do. So the resultant of addition of four vectors is r, which has a magnitude of 100 newtons along the negative y-axis. Three of the vectors are a is given, b is given, and c is given, all with respect to the positive x-axis. Now find the fourth vector d. So all you do is you are going to put vector, and then you are going to put x component, you are going to put y component. So they've said vector A has got a magnitude of 100. So we're finding AX 100, and then the angle is kissed. So that will be AX is going to be 100 cos 60, meaning AY is going to be 100 sin 60. You put your answer there. You are going to come to vector B. Vector B, they tell us the magnitude is 200. So we're going to have BX, that is going to be 200 cos. The angle is at 140. That means BY is going to be 200 sin 140. Also get to put it there. And then you have got C, which has got, you can find the X component. The magnitude is 250 cos the angle they've told us is 320. So since these are already given in respect to the positive x, that's why I've not even shown the diagram, because everything is already given in the way we are supposed to convert them. So we also find that, but what we don't know is the vector d. So we're going to have dx and dy. We know the resultant, and the resultant they've told us it has got a magnitude of 100 along the negative y. Now negative y, it means this vector is here. The meaning of this, when something is on the y-axis, it means the x component is 0. But because it's on the negative y, then that magnitude is going to be negative. It has got a magnitude of 100. That will be negative 100 because it is along the negative y. If it was along the negative x, then the magnitude for x would have become negative, but y would have been 0. So we have got this. So if you add this value and this value and this value and dx, you should get 0. You find dx. You add this value and this value and dy, it should give you negative 100. You find dy. After finding dy and dx, square root them and square to find d. After that, you can now also find the magnitude. Tan theta is equal to dy over dx. You find the magnitude. So that is basically how you go about the question.